Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back to the channel. We are live from Los Angeles, and I'm your host, Young Brando. How lovely to open the show to this very generous donation by I Love Maldives. We all love Maldives, and I really appreciate it. We still have 4 more super chats to the goal. But I guess I will continue. I have my work cut out for the day. I set that as a humble goal of 5 super chats of $5, but I think this is quite good. Let's go. We will be going back to the Phillips Hong Kong auction, which is actually online based. It's an online auction for the fall. And the bidding has already started. Lots will begin to close 24th of September at 3 p.m. local time. And if you think about it, that's in 2 hours. So we have some time, but not all the time in the world. So let's just get started. I will still warm myself up with some content from Instagram. So let's go right in. I know some of you have been asking me to go back to more historical content, and I try my best, even though I try to diversify my portfolio, so to speak, and do a lot of contemporary stuff, a lot of hype watches too. For better or worse, I have to try everything that I can to expand the platform, especially at this level where I don't have a consistent form of financial support that can help me push all this content on Instagram and YouTube. So it matters a lot, but I do try my best to gather new material. And I was inspired by the fact that renegade American director, let's say, Joseph Losey, has another important watch coming up on an auction with another house. And that inspired me to go back into the archives and dig up some material and see what else I can find on his wrist. And, you know, lo and behold, it was the unmistakable Jarajanta design, the Universal Genève Paul router. And it's such a distinctive design, as you can see, with that chapter ring that is sometimes entirely fluted or fluted at the hour markers, the crosshair dial that you can find especially on lighter colors, and this one helped me identify, even in that case, the dial color from a black and white photo. This is Losey at 1967 Cannes Film Festival, and he's wearing a Universal Genève Paul router Deluxe, in fact, one in 18 karat yellow gold. I assume, again, I can only defer to a color photo or to someone from the actual family to speak to it. But from all the lines of writing that I see here, I'm pretty sure it's a deluxe. I'm pretty sure it's a gold piece. It might be pink gold, but from my experience, from the way that my eye works, I'm actually quite convinced that it is yellow gold. But, you know, I can be wrong. of course. But I thought this was really cool. What is even cooler for me is that with all the formality of his attire, and people still wear some very elevated outfits for Cannes whenever it is festival season. In fact, for Venice as well, and more. He was wearing it on this striped nylon strap, kind of in the style of Sean Connery as James Bond. So I really, really appreciated that. And you can see him in some earlier shots as well. This is him directing King and Country, and he is wearing what I presume to be the same watch as well, this time on a simple black leather strap. So if you're interested in it, I wrote some more details in the caption for the Instagram post, and I posted the link. I shared the link there. So feel free to drop a like and even a comment if you like. Marlon Wayans is one of the leads in this movie, Him, that just came out. And he had a whole interview with Hypebeast in advance of that release. And I previously talked to you about the Piaget Polo 79 that he was wearing. He was also wearing black ceramic AP. We love black ceramic APs, as you guys know, here in this channel. This was the Royal Oak Offshore chronograph in black ceramic, 26238 CE. And this was actually kind of a two-part release, so to speak, because in 2023, which happened to be, of course, the 30th anniversary of the original Royal Oak Offshore, Emmanuel Goetz design, the beast, so to speak, the 25721 ST. So in 2023, they released a version in black ceramic that was pretty loyal to the aesthetic of that original piece. As you can see, especially in terms of the dial details, the magnifier for the date window, the general aesthetic of the watch is much more, much closer to the beast. So people called this the Black Beast when it first came out. It was later discontinued. It was pretty much an anniversary release, so to speak. But clearly, this design had enough fans that AP kept something like it in the lineup, and that is the one on the right. And the most distinctive part is, of course, the shape of the indices, the bigger approach to the waffles, that takes it from petite tapisserie of the original to mega tapisserie, an enlarged AP logo, the initial logo, which eliminates the signature, much more minimalistic, also in terms of using one of those, waffles, one of those chocolate bars as the date window itself. And the watch has this, bigger, larger than life look, and that's what we find on Marlon Wayans' wrist here. I don't know if it was a stylist thing or what, but he's actually wearing it upside down. Maybe they wanted to show the face of the watch towards the camera. Maybe it's something that the stylist did, either in an absent-minded way, or perhaps they thought it looked better on camera. Who knows? I wasn't there. I wasn't behind the scenes, so I can't really speak much to it. I see it, Maldives. This was Is this something that you have, what you shared with me on Instagram in the chat? Let me know. You can just tell me there. In the meantime, please hit the like button. So this is Marlon Wayans wearing the AP Royal Oak Offshore chronograph in full black ceramic execution. And then I posted a lot of stuff related to the Ballon d'Or ceremony. But before I get to that, I just want to share this amazing photo shoot that. Oh, that's great. What happened? Is that you got it at that price that you just shared with me and then moved on from it? Uh, I would love to know. Lenny Kravitz did like a photo shoot before he went to the VMAs earlier in New York City, and he was wearing this full Yves Saint Laurent outfit, and of course, Gégé Lecoutre reverso on the wrist, and it was the tourbillon. This pink gold tourbillon is probably his favorite. You end up seeing it on his wrist basically all the time. Even when he wears one of the monoface pieces, he kind of doubles up. You know, he wears this and another reverso, and I was pretty happy to catch it in this. And I have a very similar jacket, of course. Mine is single-breasted, not double-breasted, and I'm not a fraction as cool as Lenny Kravitz, but it's something that inspires you, something that I guess gives you that kind of aspiration when you see. Amazing. Maldives says, I got it for less than 50K and sold it at 160. I think it's a very special watch, but you have so many special watches that you can't have them all. But we will get to that. Lamine Yamal, of course, Barcelona's wonder kid, and it kind of feels wrong to call him a wonder kid, even because of his prodigious talent and his ability to directly affect the game, and in so many ways also carry Barcelona to the next level. He had to settle for the Copa trophy, which is awarded to the best under 21 player worldwide. It was mostly because he didn't really win anything of significance, right? His team lost the semifinal to Inter Milan, which ended up being completely trashed by PSG in the final for the Champions League. Spain lost the Nations League final to Portugal. And yes, he won La Liga, but let's be honest, La Liga is as prestigious as it sounds. It's still a domestic league, and it's really a two-team league. You're lucky if Atletico Madrid just kind of squeezes through once every 5 years for a real competitive season, and maybe get away with the title once every so often. But Barcelona winning La Liga, no matter with what kind of individual performance, is not really a big thing. Whereas, of course, PSG completing the continental treble is huge. Yamal was wearing the Patek Philippe Cubitus in 40 millimeters in 18 karat pink gold. These were the novelties from this year. We have seen it on Messi's wrist, so you can see that this young man has inherited more than just the number 10 from his idol. Ousmane Dembele ended up winning the big prize, the Ballon d'Or, the most individual, the most important individual prize in the world of football. Piruka, Swiss, how are you doing, man? Cubitus replaced Hublot as a football watch. I beg to differ. Don't take this as something positive that I'm saying about the Cubitus. I'm still not a big fan of the piece. It's just the latest thing that they can get from Patek. You know, these football players, for the most part, go after very predictable pieces. And if something is new and shiny, they'll want it. If they see it on a fellow, footballer's wrist, of course, that might increase, that might intensify their aspiration towards it. But honestly, I mean, I've checked everyone's wrists, and I've never, kind of to riff on Blancpain's slogan, I never featured a Hublot watch, and I never will on Instagram. But I've seen a lot of Hublots on people's wrists at the gala, to be honest. So Hublot is still very strong in the world of football, or soccer, as they call it here. So that being said, my boy Osman seems to have been quite infatuated with Richard Mille more recently. I wonder if there is a partnership brewing there, because as you know, Richard Mille does go after superstar athletes in certain fields. I'm trying to think if they have ever had a big time football player for whom they made a special watch. I don't know, but maybe Dembele will be the first. And they are going out of their way a little bit, right? They just struck a deal with LeBron James, and he became the first basketball player with a special Richard Mille piece. So maybe Dembele is next, because as he was lifting the trophy, he was wearing the 6702, which is probably the most popular, speaking of Hublot for football players. The RM 6702, not only among football players but athletes, is extremely popular. Obviously, they have all these special versions of it that were in fact customized and spruced up in certain ways for particular athletes. And as it happens, the one that Dembele wears bears the colors, the tricolore of the French flag, precisely because it was made for the motorsports icon Sébastien Ogier. I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. Maybe we need to bring Swiss up in here so he can help me pronounce some of this stuff. It has a case in carbon TPT, and the open worked dial features hand-painted bridges that carry the colors of the French flag. And this was basically designed as an ultra-thin, sportier version of the 6701, weighing altogether 32 grams. That includes the case, of course, the movement, which is grade 5 titanium in its base plate and open work bridges, and of course that elastic comfort strap, which apparently is the lightest one so far produced by Richard Mille. And the next day, the morning after, so to speak, he was wearing another Richard Mille. And if the first one was paying homage to his country, his own country, France, this one pays homage to Qatar. Of course, Qatar is not just another country in Dembele's life and in Paris either, because their sovereign wealth fund actually owns Paris Saint-Germain, which completed the Continental Treble, the domestic league, domestic cup, and the Champions League last year, where Dembele basically played the star role. And this is a version of the 6702, which was actually released in 2017 for the Qatari athlete and high jump specialist Mu'taz Bashem, who won the gold in the Summer Olympics in Tokyo, an honor which he shared, by the way, with Gianmarco Tamberi. I don't know whether that was the only time in history, but it was quite rare when that happened. RM hype died in Geneva. If you have an RM, you're a has-been. It might be true. I think they still sell extremely well. Yes. I mean, I see an unconscionable amount of authentic and fake Richard Mille in Beverly Hills. I can tell you that. Switzerland has its own taste. It always has. Especially with regard to Swiss watches, right? So I'm not sure if it's a good gauge, actually. Unless, again, you are going to places like Gstaad and, around the lake or something, to observe what the show-offs that come from different parts of the world do. And I guess it never, it's a brand that divides opinion for all the right reasons, if you ask me. Because for people who love them, they genuinely do love them, and they won't wear anything else, and they see it as their entry to this very privileged, exclusive club. For people who hate them, it's quite the opposite, actually, right? Like, it comes with all the worst stereotypes that others have against the 1%, against people who want to look like they are richer than they are, who are more special than they are, who are, who try to make themselves look big when they are actually really small. So it is what it is. I'm kind of with RM. I'm in between. I just observe it as someone who is enthusiastic about watches. I really don't care about anything positive or negative about the brand in general. I don't care enough. I think they are too expensive for their own good, I have to say. Piruka says, now people lose their mind over Jaune. That's true. Recep Recepi, which is even more exclusive than Richard Mille, so I don't doubt you. Simon, Brett, Berneron, and Roth. I think Simon Brett and Berneron are still too niche for it to have any actual hype. Simon Brett and Berneron have hype among watch nerds like us. I don't know if I would count myself even as part of that hype and enthusiasm. I like how Simon Brett pieces look from a distance. I've never seen one in person. I've never experienced one in the flesh, so to speak. So I have very little to say. Berneron, I never liked, though I'm very excited about the annual calendar that they just came up with. So that, we are enthusiastic about that. But the average person on the street who is vaguely interested in watches for one reason or another and has a lot of money to blow, trust me, they don't know anything about Simon Brett or Berneron. Possibly also about Recep Recepi. And Daniel Roth, the reason people lose their mind on Daniel Roth is I'm sure there are some who do that for the right reasons, but for most, it's a way of kissing up to LVMH. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I mean, I love Enrico Barbazzini and um, Michel Navas, but you got to call things as you see them when you see them. It's kind of sickening, actually, within watch media, even more so. But even with collectors who are trying to get into that exclusive sphere and being, wanting to get invited to Louis Vuitton related events, etc. They can't do wrong. Um, but yeah, there are people who are still very principled and call them out on their bullshit. The fact that um, the Arnault family would restart Daniel Roth with subscription watches, for example, was a complete charade, which some people were at least brave enough to call out, because the subscription model in and of itself emerges in a situation where the watchmaker, and Breguet was in this situation, can't actually, complete those watches without being given the trust and advanced funding from potential customers. Uh, you know, Moët Hennessy, Louis Vuitton, and the Arnault family are the last, um, group of watchmakers and luxury um, producers that would need such supports. So it's kind of funny, and I'm saying this as as a huge fan of Daniel Roth, the man, and a lot of the pieces that were made with that name on it. But Daniel Roth after 1995 is a different beast. Whether it's made in the hourglass era, of which a watch I own, whether it's made within the Bulgari umbrella, under the LVMH auspices, La Fabrique du Temps. Those are all, to me, different beasts. But that's another issue altogether. Coming back to Bulgari, this is Luis Enrique, who won the best coach because he is PSG's manager. So he got the Johan Cruyff trophy. He accepted it in absentia because he was actually leading the team for a game against Marseille, if I'm not mistaken, which they ended up losing because some of their important players were playing superstars in this gala. And it's okay, they deserve a break too once every so often. But at the beginning of this season, Luis Enrique was wearing the Bulgari Octofinissimo chronograph GMT in titanium, which is a pretty cool watch. Again, I'm a huge fan of Fabrizio Bonamassa Stiliani's designs. I like the Octofinissimo. I think the chronograph GMT for me, because how skinny my wrist is pushing it a little bit because it increases the case size from 40 to 42, and it is already a big watch on the wrist that feels very small because of how ultra thin it is and because of how light it is. But if you can carry it, if you like to wear it, this is a great and very functional watch because not only do you get the thinnest self-winding chronograph, which is achieved, at least in part, thanks to a peripheral rotor and the absence of a vertical clutch, and a GMT function, which you can easily operate, by arranging this additional 24-hour hand at the 3 o'clock subdial from this pusher at 9 o'clock. I think it's a pretty cool piece, and Luis Enrique certainly wears it well. All right. I think that's pretty much it. I do want your support. So please hit the like button here, and uh, if you don't mind, check some of the posts on Instagram. Give me a few likes here and there, and even share them if you could. I would really appreciate that. It helps a great deal. Doesn't cost you anything, but honestly, it really pushes forward the platform, and I really do need that. I'm desperate to reach 3,000 here, 25,000 on Instagram, and those numbers matter as I'm trying to get this more sustainable. We had started exploring the Phillips watches online auction, the Hong Kong sessions for the fall in the last live stream. You guys know the drill, so I'm going to share the link here. If you want me to jump to any particular lots, if you have any questions about a watch that you want me to discuss in further detail that I skipped over, that I didn't get to just yet, feel free to send in the lot number, ideally with a super chat, and I would be more than happy to talk about it with some horological and historical detail. Otherwise, I kind of go my way. There's also an IWC, another smaller auction, a 12 lot curation that's purely dedicated to IWC Porsche design from the 80s. If you want me to go back to that, that's on the same page. Same page as in, same Phillips auction page, also Hong Kong based. Feel free to send anything from there, and I'm happy to take a look at that as well. Otherwise, I will go at my own pace and kind of pick and choose what I will discuss here. Let's start with our thumbnail, and because Maldives already brought it up, this is a cool detail to discuss. And I don't want to go into a whole digression here, but this watch, this limited edition watch, actually has a history that has significant bearing on what FP Jean has become as a brand, and actually an outsized significance, you might say, for a piece that was, I think, for a limited run that was, I think, 66 pieces in total, or maybe 38, 2 runs of 38 pieces each. At any rate, it's less than 70 pieces in a limited edition. And it's a relationship that was built through this collaboration that basically changed the fate of FP Jean, because some of you might recall that Holland and Holland, the classic gunmakers, British gunmakers, London's best, so to speak, were at one time actually owned by Chanel, by the Wertheimer brothers who own Chanel. And the Wertheimer brothers are known to be watch collectors, and they were already at the time customers of FP Jean. I think they mostly did their business up until that point through the New York boutique. And it was basically a collaboration that organically developed out of that relationship. They wanted to make something very special to kind of mark that connection between the Wertheimer brothers and F.B. Jean. And they basically came up with this idea of making a stainless steel chronometer in the way of chronomètre Souverain, but in the dimensions of the chronomètre bleu. So this is a 39 millimeter. It's probably the purest distillation because this is a two-hander. So not only does it lack the power reserve indicator, much like the chronomètre bleu, it also lacks the small seconds as well, the offset, the asymmetric, the eccentric subdial for the seconds. So it basically just has hour and minutes, and that is mostly done to give you the best enjoyment, the purest, most uninterrupted appreciation of a very special dial. You might mistake it at first glance as a wooden dial, perhaps like a burlwood or something, but that is actually Damascus steel that was harvested from, that was derived from the barrels of two antique guns over 100 years old that were made by Holland and Holland. So the barrel, okay, it's 66 pieces. So barrel number 1382, dating to 1868, yielded 38 dials. Barrel 7183, dating to 1882, produced 28 dials. So altogether 66 pieces, and apparently this particular piece comes from the second run of the 28 pieces. At the Holland and Holland factory, each barrel was cut lengthwise, rolled flat, then sliced into smaller strips, cleaned, polished, thinned to the specific dimensions required for a watch dial, and then the material was then sent to F.B. Jean's own dial-making atelier, les Quatrannières de Genève, where the dials were cut out. They were returned to Holland and Holland for browning, a traditional gum-making technique that both protects the steel and enhances the natural Damascus patterns, and that's how you get that look that might make you think this is a wooden dial. I think these pieces are very, very cool beyond the fact that they signify that sort of special relation between the Wertheimer brothers and Jean. Of course, Chanel ended up buying a minority stake in François-Paul Jean's enterprise not much later, and the rest is history, right? You know, they owe a lot of their global expansion and the opening of this entire network of boutiques worldwide to the security, to the facility of that capital injection. This is lot number 8011 from the Hong Kong sessions. The piece is currently being bid at 2,200,000 in Hong Kong dollars, which is 283,000 almost in US dollars. Mind blowing. Of course, again, there are just a couple of hours left, but we are on the verge of hitting $300,000, which, again, for a simple stainless steel time-only watch, a two-hander, it's incredible. And of course, the movement is not that much different than what you see in chronomètre souverain or chronomètre bleu. It's the hand-wound caliber 1304. But of course, here the base plate is inscribed Holland and Holland. This is number 5 of the second series of 28 pieces in stainless steel. The Holland and Holland chronometer by F.B. Jean at lot 8011, right now being bid at around $283,000 US dollars. We can continue with a variation on the theme, another independent brand that has, over the last few years, grown enormously in terms of visibility. Of course, nothing is quite comparable to how much F.B. Jean has made a headway into the mainstream of watch collecting, at least. Yeah, yes. I mean, again, it's mind-blowing, right? Not because a lot of times people don't quite realize when these watches come out first. And, we're talking about 2017, 2018. So Jean was still in a very rarefied space. It is before the capital injection by Chanel. Again, I just explained the process. But it's also at a time where before people started obsessing about, forget about the Jean hype in general, but people had not yet started obsessing about the rarity of stainless steel pieces by F.B. Jean. People hadn't yet quite understood the method to his madness. The whole way that François-Paul Jean operates might be quite unique to him. But there's a pattern to it, right? In the sense that, for example, once he discontinues something, it's not coming back. And in this case, of course, we're talking about dials sourced from barrels of antique rifles. So, it seems to be a no-brainer, right? If you want a simple time-only watch by Jean, this would be the one to own. Not even a chronomètre bleu, if you ask me, from a collector's standpoint, right? Of course, someone who likes a blue dial on a watch, it might be a no-brainer to go for chronomètre bleu. Someone who likes something more classically oriented and more conservative would go for a chronomètre souverain. But it's in hindsight. Hindsight is 2020. But yeah, from 40,000 to basically 300,000 in a matter of 8 years. That's pretty impressive. Coming back to De Bethune, this is lot 8012, a DB28 in titanium. This was a line launched in 2010, winning the prestigious Aiguille d'Or in 2011 in the GPHG, the grand prize of that Grand Prix Horlogerie de Genève. This particular piece has classic titanium finish. None of that blued titanium appearance that has become the brand signature, kind of part of their aesthetic code these days. So it's something that looks a little bit more austere, a little more stern. But what is always very special about the DB28, pardon me, of course, is the floating lugs, right? Those pierced floating lugs that add to the, of course, to the lightweight nature of the piece, but also help it wear as close to the wrist as possible. So for all the contemporary look and oversized or seemingly oversized dimensions of the watch, since it sits so close to your wrist when you strap it on with the help of the floating lugs, it is actually quite wearable, quite ergonomic. Although, of course, they have just come up with smaller versions of the DB28 very recently. So obviously they have understood that it's to make it more accessible to a wider variety of people, you still have to do some extra work without perhaps sacrificing the larger aesthetic codes of the brand. I think they have done that quite well. And of course, the classic look with that top movement plate, which is the centerpiece of the dial, rhodium plated, decorated with classic Geneva waves. The balance with its signature triple parachute shock absorber, and part of the main springs are also visible at 6 o'clock. And there is, again, another signature of the brand at 6 o'clock under the balance is that spherical moon phase indicator as well. And I think on the case back, there's a power reserve indicator, which is actually a full 6-day at full crank. You see this pivot point on which the floating lugs actually move. So once you strap it on, it's actually a watch that sits very nice and close to the wrist. I would still go with the XS with the smaller case size, but certainly, some people obviously want the oversized wrist presence of these pieces. That's part of the attraction, at least. This piece is currently being bid at 420,000 in Hong Kong dollars, which is right around 54,000 in US dollars. Lot 8015 is another independent brand that I really appreciate, at the very least in terms of design. And it is Laurent Ferrier with their classic Origin Blue. It's their round cased watch, what they call galet. precisely because the inspiration of the round and rounded soft shape is a pebble, as if this were a form that was fashioned over time, or at least given its final form by nature and not necessarily by human hand. Of course, that's just a story, but it sounds good. I really like the dial design, the elongated applied indices at the quarters are beautiful. The crosshair on the dial, being a fan of the Paul router, going all the way back, certainly pulls at my heartstrings. I like the slightly oversized subdial for the seconds, which has this very soft powder blue sector around it for the seconds. And the brand also has a very unique spear-like hand shape that they call assegai, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, this the crown itself, which is like a softer onion crown, at least an oversized crown. I've heard it called something like a turban crown somewhere. I don't know who uses that, but if you, let me see, if you have ever seen some of these portraits of Ottoman sultans, for example, done by Italian painters, the kind of headgear they wear is actually pretty similar to this shape. So I can see how that naming came up. And I also like the particular blue, the gradient blue of this dial as well, even though I don't usually go for blue dials unless they're very special, and this is certainly a special one. This is their hand wound movement, which is a little more austerely finished, but still quite nice and pleasing to the eye. Polished titanium, grade 5 titanium case, which, at least when they released this watch, was a little more rare in the realm of dress watches. By the way, it's the micro-rotor movements of Laurent Ferrier that have that Breguet-inspired natural escapement. This manual winding caliber actually has a Swiss lever escapement, so which is a detail that I wouldn't want you to miss. But again, I still like the way that the frosted finish of the bridges, the work on the anglage, I still appreciate it. This is the Laurent Ferrier Classic Origin Blue, which has a dial that plays with various shades of that color. A very beautiful looking watch. At 80.15, at lot 80.15, the piece is currently being bid at 180,000 in Hong Kong dollars, which is right around 23,150 in US dollars. We're closing around our first hour. I will go at least until midnight, but I would appreciate your support. Any support you would like to give. Happy to answer your questions. Anything watch related is welcome. Uh, Hitting the like button is also extremely welcome, so feel free to do that. And if you would share the link, whether it is to my YouTube channel or my Instagram, I would really appreciate it. I'm at Young Brando here and at young.brando on Instagram. And if you are following the link from Instagram, again, I'm desperate for more subscribers here. So please hit the subscribe, hit the bell icon so you keep abreast of some of the developments here, especially these live streams, which happen with some frequency during the week, at least 4 times. 8016, we are going to something more of a mainstay, especially in the 21st century, since Patek Philippe brought back their world timer. This is the 5131 Line 1P, which is in platinum with a case diameter that scales right under 40. And the watch also comes with a 5-row beads of rice style bracelet in the matching metal, of course. There's like a little nook, little cutout there, even on that end link at 6 o'clock, where you can see that single brilliant cut diamond that's set between the lugs, which is a very cool feature of the latter day Pateks. The piece, of course, has all the accoutrements that come with Patek Philippe world time pieces. It is powered by a micro rotor movement that is based on the lineage, on the legacy caliber 240. Of course, you have the 24-hour or 24 time zone cities ring, 24 cities for each time zone. You have the 24-hour ring that is in a concentric circle, which is divided to 2 sectors to separate day and night. Silver gray for the day hours and like a navy or like a midnight blue for the night hours. And that surrounds a very special miniature painting of sorts, a cloisonné enamel dial, which is a technique of micro painting that is used for a select number of watch dials by brands of this stature. It's a rare handcraft, and I think probably a few decades ago we might have called it perhaps a dying art, but I think with this kind of increasing interest, there is at least some sort of patronage of the remaining craftspeople who are masters of this particular art. It's a very delicate version of enameling because it involves the construction of the dial involves the application of hairline thin gold wires on the surface to trace the outline of the form. Here, the map or a section of the world map. And then discrete areas are filled with enamel powder within those gold borders. And of course, the enameling process itself requires the heating of this dial several times in a kiln at approximately 700-800 degrees Celsius. And since, of course, that's a process that it's very delicate, that can produce a lot of brittle dials. The rejection rate is pretty high, hence the rarity and exclusivity of these kinds of pieces. Here's a look at that microrotor movement. It's the 22 carat oscillating weight that bears the Calatrava cross. Patek Philippe World Time wristwatch, 5131 line 1P, platinum on the matching bracelet at lot 8016. This piece is currently being bid at 700,000 in in Hong Kong dollars, which amounts to something like 90,000 in US dollars. Shana Tova, Ryan. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As I mentioned, all support is most welcome. So I really, really do appreciate you. Thank you. Please don't forget to hit the like button if you haven't done so already. We have at least another hour here, so that's why I'm taking things maybe slightly slower than usual. Here's a very interesting piece. I've talked about the quote-unquote full-sized versions of this piece before. One of the special pieces, one of the limited editions that came out of the 175th anniversary celebrations of Patek Philippe, which went together with the Watch Arts Grand Exhibition in London, were these multi-scale chronograph wristwatches that were made in a number of series. This is the ladies' version of it, 37 millimeters in diameter, in pink gold. The cases are absolutely beautiful, if you ask me, with their stepped lugs. And of course, you have all the three traditional scales with which these sorts of classical chronographs come with. In this case, on the periphery of the dial, you have a tachymeter scale, which wraps itself around a pulsometer graduated for 15 pulsations, right? Kind of a feature of a lot of so-called doctor's watches, since that helps you take the pulse off, get the heart rate of a patient. And then at the very center of the dial, you have a telemeter scale, which, of course, allows you to let me explain. Allows you to measure the distance of an event that you can see or hear. It's the most quote-unquote practical use of it that comes to me is in a trench war of sorts, right? Which if you hear the enemy shelling, right, and press the button of your chronograph. When that lands in or around your trench, you stop the chronograph, and the reading you get is basically the estimated distance of the enemy to where you are on the front. I guess you can use it for, to measure lightning. What else? I don't know. Let's check it out. What else do people use the telemeter to measure? Distance from lightning strike. Yeah, that's the only other one that I see mentioned from a quick link that I open. Of course, unlike the male, more masculine version of this piece, this is gem set with baguette cut diamonds for the hour markers. The 5975 is the full-sized reference when it comes to this particular piece. The scales are differently laid out on those as well, and they do feature bigger cases at 40 millimeters. This is 37 and a half, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe more like 37. And this is a pink gold version, which has the reference number 4675R. And I believe this is a full set, so it comes with the commemorative medallion and everything. So it's pretty cool. The presentation box is very special too, although it didn't quite fit in to that mise en scène they have here. You can catch a glimpse of it right there. And this was made in 150 pieces in white gold, 150 pieces in pink gold. When it comes to this particular reference, 4675. That's 8026 for the reference 4675R. Patek Phillips 175th anniversary multi-scale chronograph in a feminine guise. The piece is currently being bid at 300,000 in Hong Kong dollars. And that, my friends, is around 38,500 US dollars. 38,600 even. Pardon me. Something a little simpler. By the way, we have about an hour and 20, an hour and 15 minutes left on some of these pieces. So those of you who are perhaps in the process of bidding are perhaps getting ready to do that. At lot 8031, we have a piece that is still part of Patek Philippe's catalog. It's a classic hand-wound chronograph, which features Patek's first in-house hand-wound chronograph movement, the CH28-520 in this particular case. I'm sorry, CH29. That was the automatic. That was a previous watch that we were talking about. This is powered by the CH29 535, the hand wound in-house chronograph movement. The case itself is pretty special, measuring right around 41 millimeters in diameter. It has these Art Deco double-stepped lugs. Turning it over again. And contributing to that slightly vintage like feel, you have syringe hands, which are combined with Arabic numerals, also inlaid with luminous material, and tachymeter scale that you find on the periphery of the dial. Two registers that are a little drooped from the exact center of the dial, 30-minute totalizer at around 3 o'clock, and then continuous running seconds at 9. Of course, you have centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand as well. This is a blue dial version. There is also a salmon dial version now in the catalog. This was the one first introduced in 2019, replacing the previous reference 5170. This is the Patek Philippe chronograph 5172G-001, white gold piece with the blue dial. At lot 8031, it is currently being bid at 300,000 Hong Kong dollars, and that is right around 38,600 US dollars, roughly speaking. Right next to that, they put a competitor. They're doing a good job there. This is the 1815 chronograph by Alain Gonzune. Alain Gonzune, of course, produced quite a stir, generated quite a stir when they released their first chronograph, the esteemed datograph, around 1999. It was, of course, their 5th anniversary, and for that they made something quite special. Of course, by now, Alain Gonzone is known as a chronograph specialist. At that time, they were still mostly seen as an outsider, even if they were also serious contenders to all the distinguished brands of Swiss watchmaking. And the L951-1 as an in-house hand-wound chronograph movement of the post-quartz era, I think served as a wake-up call to many of these high horological Swiss brands to really get on with the program and start creating their own in-house movements from scratch and finishing them to the levels of mastery and artistry that Alain Gonzune was showing with their watches. Of course, 1815 is in a way a more simplified version of the datograph, even though it shares the same movement base. So for the most part, from this exhibition back, you'll glimpse the same movement. Of course, it doesn't have, the watch doesn't have the double-digit oversized date indicator, the grand date, so to speak. The power reserve indicator is also absent, which, by the way, wasn't there in the original datograph at any rate, but that's another thing altogether. Here, of course, you see the chronograph works right here around 6 o'clock. The swan neck regulator on the freehand engraved balance cock. Of course, the chronograph bridges rendered in German silver, that particular alloy of copper, nickel, and zinc, which has a champagne-like tint to it, and it's, I think it serves as a great point of contrast with all these different layers and elements that are either satinized or black polished. All in all, you can see a lot of different kinds of course, techniques beyond what I've already counted. Of course, there's the more distinctive glashütte ribbing on the bridges, on the chronograph bridges. You see the perlage on the base plate. Of course, there is a number of beveled and chamfered edges as well. Unlike the datograph, which has a tachymeter scale, the 1815 has a pulsometer, graduated in this case for 30 pulsations, and that is inscribed on a rejo. Again, great use of typography, with the signature also spread out there at around 12 o'clock. Great sense of dimensionality between the rejo and the main center of the dial and the radially grooved chronograph registers, which are similarly drooped in this case. This is the Alan Gonzone 1815 chronograph, a flyback chronograph, reference 401026 in white gold. At lot 8032, the piece is being bid at 220,000 Hong Kong dollars, which is actually right around 28,300 in US dollars. These can be some interesting results, guys. I'm skipping over some watches here that I either don't have immediate interest in or have discussed in the previous live stream. So if you want me to go back, please feel free to let me know. We're looking at Patek Ellipse d'Or in yellow gold. This is a pretty distinctive version of the ellipse with a double-stepped bezel. It's the reference 3634. With a self-winding movement in 18 karat yellow gold. The dimensions of it are not too small, by the way, 38 by 33.5. But obviously, if you like something bigger on your wrist, if you like even more modern dimensions, even when it's a dress watch, this is certainly not one for you. It also has a very special onyx style. And the piece actually comes with the archival extract that confirms that onyx style. That's the dial that it left the manufacturer with. And of course, it has an elliptical tank buckle that matches the general shape of the watch. Made in 1973, sold on November 15th, 1979. Pretty close to my birthday, actually. Very beautiful piece with that onyx style, especially. Actually, I have a friend who was looking for a similar watch to this. So with your permission, I'll send to my clients this particular link. And if he is up for it, he might actually be able to even buy it, be able to snag it. There's not much left after all on the clock, so it's a good time. My apologies. This needs to be done. Okay, done. Now, this is lot 8037, currently being bid at 140,000 in Hong Kong dollars, which is a little more than 18,000 in US dollars. We have a classic Calatrava in white gold that is double signed. This is a 5227, if I'm not mistaken. G-010 white gold piece with a black dial, 39 millimeters in diameter. So not too large, not too small. I think it has a nice contrast between the white metal of the case and the lacquered black dial. I like the fact that they used a black date wheel with white writing. So the date is both visible and not very intrusive. Dauphine hands, sweep center seconds, with the Tiffany and Company signature at 6 o'clock. The piece does come with the full set of its original accessories, including the certificate of authenticity that is stamped by Tiffany, another November 15, 2019. Of course, that classic Patek tang buckle, a hinged case back that gives you, oops, sorry about that, a hinged case back that gives you a nice view of the self-winding movement. Of the classic 324 SC. And this is lot 8047, a Patek Philippe Calatrava, retailed once and signed by Tiffany and Company. Comes with the full set of its accessories, so the authenticity is not to be contested in this case. And it is being bid at 240,000 in Hong Kong dollars, which is right around 30,800, roughly speaking. Not too bad for a special Calatrava like this, especially if you like the aesthetics of it. At lot 8052, you have a red sub. It's pretty cool, actually. Classic vintage Submariner date. This particular example comes from around year 1970, 1971. It's presented on a matching bracelet with folded links, matching oyster bracelet with folded links. Of course, it has that red Submariner writing on the dial at 6 o'clock. Nice puffy loom plots that have an eggshell coloring. Relatively uniform with the hands, but it's not a perfect match. I've argued with some people for days about this. And I rest my case on the idea once again, since in those days Rolex had many different suppliers for each component, but certainly between the different luminous components, such as the dial from one maker matched with the hands from another maker, what is to be expected, actually, and what is more authentic is the way they would fade differently. So a lot of times when you see a perfect match, perhaps that is what should raise an eyebrow, because after all, the dial makers and the hand makers didn't always have the same exact mix of tritium in this case. And the fact that they would age slightly differently is actually nothing to be worried about. It's, if anything, it's a good sign that the watch is yet to be touched by someone with either levels of OCD or crookedness that would mess with what the hands of nature have already accomplished on the watch. It's apparently a piece originally bought from the island of Malta. Got the beautiful top hat crystal. Just those distortions from off the dial from an angle are worth this piece. And the case is in decent condition. I mean, it's not the most perfect one that I've ever seen, but certainly worthy of an example from that time period. This is lot 8052. A Submariner date reference 1680 with the red Submariner writing. A Mark IV dial. Comes with the original guarantee papers and the presentation box. The piece is currently being bid at 100,000 Hong Kong dollars, which is 12,860, roughly speaking, in the US currency. The 16800, I know someone who appears in this chat once every so often, is looking for something like this. Brody specifically. 16800. Here it's pretty consistent, you know, kind of like not a pumpkin color, but perhaps I mean, it's a very nice and harmonious fade patina, so to speak, between the luminous pip on the bezel, the dial, the hands. Everything is quite cool. A Rolex Submariner in stainless steel, of course, matched with its bracelets, its oyster bracelets. Reference 16800. Which is a transitional reference, so to speak, because it has the modern upgrades, even if it has also elements that are still a throwback, such as the dial, tritium, without the white gold surrounds and everything. It has the newer movements, the caliber 30-35, if I'm not mistaken. It has a unidirectional bezel, unlike the previous references, which have a bidirectional bezel. Of course, the unidirectional helps you prevent accidental rotations. This piece is from right around year 1984. And I think it's also sapphire crystal, unlike earlier examples. Beautiful patina on the dial, as I mentioned. And it also comes like a nice set with the original warranty papers and some of the accoutrement that comes with it, the calendar cards, you know, the leather wallets, the fitted presentation box, the outer box. Nice little time capsule of sorts. Of course, it's the condition itself is not new old stock or anything, so don't take it that way when I say time capsule. But it has its set of authentic accompanying documents. And at lots 8053, a 1984 transitional Rolex Submariner reference 16800, all in stainless steel. This piece is currently being bid at 95,000 Hong Kong dollars, which is a little more than 12,200 in the US currency. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. And if you have followed this link from Instagram, please don't forget to subscribe. I genuinely appreciate your support. Any support you might give, and hitting the like button is a great start. Of course, you can choose to support the channel with some of the ways that YouTube provides you. If you have a burning question, or if you want to direct my attention to another lot in this auction before I close in the next 20 minutes to half an hour, feel free to send in the lot number. If you have any other watch-related question, I would be happy to answer those as well. And of course, you can always get a membership for yourself or gift a membership to others. That is a great way to support the channel. Buying a membership or gifting memberships to others. And it gives you access to a lot of exclusive content as well. And if you're not, for whatever reason, you don't prefer to use those ways, you can always use one of the ways I outline in the video description. Again, thank you so much for your support already, especially Ryan Hoffrey, and I love Maldives, who has been really generous as always. We're looking at a classic Zenith Daytona, so to speak. This, of course, refers to the 5-digit reference, that first reference of automatic chronographs by Rolex, the reference 16520, here presented in the classic white / panda dial configuration. It is the so-called floating cosmograph, the floating dial, where if you quickly look, where you have these 5 lines of writing, where the last line, cosmograph, is separated from the upper 4 lines, so as if it's kind of floating in that void right under 12 o'clock. One thing I really like about the Zenith movement before and the Zenith Daytona, so to speak, beyond its historical significance, of course, as being one of the first, if not the first, El Primero automatic integrated chronograph movements. It also has a beautiful dial layout, as you can see here, perfectly balanced. The 2 registers here are perfectly centered. You know, you can draw a straight line here through the 80 and the dots, through the index at 9 o'clock, right through the continuous running seconds, the stack of hands, the 3 o'clock 30-minute totalizer, the index there, and right through the crown. Everything is perfectly aligned, unlike later iterations of the Daytona where they're pushed slightly upwards. Anyway, I really love the aesthetics of this reference. I like the significance of it for representing the first generation of self-winding Daytonas. The fact that it has a modified Zenith movement is also comes also with that added historical significance. In this case, you have a pretty nice example. I prefer the white dial versions to the black dial versions, in this case too. You have some of the documents that go with it, as well as the presentation box, the outer packaging, the wallets, the documents, which includes a service receipt from 2018, as well as some of the product literature, including the instruction manual. This is the Rolex Cosmograph Daytona 16520 from around year 1989. So you can count it as an early example of the Zenith Daytona. At lot 8058, it is currently being bid at 200,000 in Hong Kong dollars, which is a little more than 25,700 in US dollars. We have 15 to 20 minutes, so there is still some time to explore some of the quirkier, some of the more unusual watches here. So I will take that chance. Let's go to Naoyahida, actually, and then we can come back to Otsuka-Lotek, perhaps. At lot 8066, we have a beautiful three-hander with sweep center seconds from the Japanese independent maker Naoyahida. This is the Type 2C-1, the letter cutter. It's part of a limited edition created in collaboration with the Armory, the menswear haven with bases in Hong Kong and New York. Stainless steel, 37 millimeters in diameter, inspired by classic Calatravas of yore. This particular limited edition was made in only 20 pieces between 2022 and 2023. The dial is crafted from German silver and features these hand-engraved Arabic numerals that use that custom font, and that is the distinctive part of the Armory collaboration. They say here that it draws inspiration from stone carving and adds a bold sculptural character to the dial. And these really, the design elements, and especially the aspects of handwork that are added to these pieces is what distinguishes Naoyahida. The hands here, the blued center, sweep center second hand as well. The Armory and Naoyahida signatures inscribed on the dial too. Of course, it comes with the full set of its original accessories. The movement works with the base and architecture of Vajou 7750, but it's a hand-wound movement that in this case offers central seconds and 45 hours of power reserve, a redesigned click mechanism for smoother winding, And again, when it comes to the dial, the face of the watch, you have hand-polished hands, a heat-blued steel seconds hand, featuring a bent tip. So it's nicely aligned to the curvatures of the dial. And it is presented on a hand-stitched leather strap that you can see here, with in a deep shade of blue with a natural grain. And I think that kind of strap goes really well with any watch that has a heat blued steel hand venturing around the dial. I think this is a very beautiful, understated piece. But of course, due to its rarity, I'm gonna assume that it's probably going for relatively high price point. It is being bid at 220,000 in Hong Kong dollars, which is right about 28,300 in US dollars. That was lot 8066 for the Naohida in collaboration with the Armory Type 2C1 letter cutter, stainless steel dress watch. Thank you. Thank you. Shana Tova to you too. And the book at FP Jean for an allocation. I don't know. I'm not signed up for anything. Honestly, look, they are usually nice and transparent, but they also dance a little bit too much for my taste, right? They're expecting too much courting. I'm still very old-fashioned when it comes to this, as a customer, especially, that I don't like it when I have to do the courting to buy something, right? I know that you have to go through certain paces, and that you have to be in a certain standing to even qualify to buy a watch. But I've tried to establish a bond with them, visiting the boutiques in more than one city in person. I remember a couple of years ago, I actually registered for their open hour, cocktail hour, whatever they call it, that monthly event that they have in their boutiques. Got rejected a couple of times to even attend those events. I was expecting a follow-up from them on a number of occasions, through certain introductions. Never came. And I'm just not gonna, I'm not the kind of person who would insist in that way. I'm really not dying to own an FP Joan. If one comes my way at the right moments, at the right price point, why not? I like their chronographs quite a bit, actually, which is probably too niche at this point, but it's also, any watch by them goes for, multiple factors of its retail price on the secondary market. So it's nothing that I would mess with personally. All right, coming back to the auction, I think I have time for about three more watches. I love that they have an SKX 007 in an auction, in a Phillips auction at that. I think that's very cute. They're not fooling me by that. It's interesting, right? That they would include such an icon, which is being bid at 1,400 Hong Kong dollars, at lot 8105. And that's really something like $180, I think. Very interesting. Very interesting. I don't, you know, I know it's accompanied with an essay and everything, but I'm not going to mess with it. You guys know already how much I like it, but lot 8107. Let's take a look at that. This is the Chapek Antarctique, the integrated bracelet watch of the independent brand. Some call it the Phoenix brand, Chapek. Of course, Chapek takes its name after the original partner of Patek, who later on set up his own brand, which has a respectable history, but of course we're talking about the brand as resurrected in modern time. And at a certain point in time, they have also joined this integrated bracelet watch craze. And there was a moment where a lot of their pieces were selling on the secondary market, again, by multiple factors of their retail price, which was unrealistic and which was really kind of a bubble. So I'm glad things have died down, things have calmed down, and the prices have settled at realistic points. Still, perhaps too much for what some are willing to part with. All in all, I like the Antarctique. The design itself is not the most original, but there are certain details that set it apart. From full frontal view, of course, I think what I can really commend is the design of the bracelet and those polished C-shaped interlinks, which of course invokes the initial of their brand name, their founder's name. The dials themselves are quite nice too, aesthetically speaking. Kind of a three-dimensional pattern, which here is like a silver gray. And I think it's a pattern that they call Stairway to Eternity or Stairway to Heaven. Again, I like the texture of it. It reminds me like a very artistic iteration of like a complex knitwear pattern. So it does, it does, I think, sound out all the right notes when you think about it. It has an enlarged Arabic numeral at 12 with a date window that counterbalances that at 6 o'clock. I love the bullet-shaped indices here that go quite well with those alpha hands. There's a center sweep seconds hand that's red-tipped, and there's also a red arrow right there at the 60th or 0 seconds. Of course, what's most distinctive and perhaps most impressive is their proprietary movement. The architecture of it, of the caliber SXH5, harkens back to the three-finger bridges of classic pocket watch movements. And I think the 7 skeletonized bridges here of those fingers, for the most part, that give you a nice look at most, if not all, of the gear train. Is quite impressive. I also like the platinum oscillating weight for the micro rotor as well. The movement, again, may be inspired in a bygone past, but is actually quite modern looking, I think, thanks to also its finishing and the use of that platinum weight. And you can see pieces 1 of 40, 1 of 40 in the from the Roaring 40 series, and it is inscribed with the name of the original owner as well on that bezel that surrounds the sapphire crystal case back too. This is the Chapek Antarctique, the Roaring 40s, 1 of 40 pieces in a limited edition at lots 8107. The piece is currently being bid at 95,000 Hong Kong dollars, which is a little more than just north of 12,200 US dollars. All right, let's do 2 more watches while we are at it. Oh, let's go. I think I will do 4 more. Yeah, I'll do 4 more. I'll do all the Otsuka Lotex and then maybe the Hermès Le Temps Voyageur as well. So we have the Otsuka Lotek model number 5, brand new sealed in bronze and stainless steel. This piece is actually made in stainless steel, but this particular example is from a Taiwan exclusive edition with a bronze case. The model number 5 was actually discontinued in 2022, so it's going to be even harder to come by if you actually like it. It's there. It's their approach to a regulator style piece where there's an hours disc at 12 o'clock, a minutes disc at 6 o'clock, and a small seconds that you can glimpse through an aperture at the center. And there is an added date function as well. Which you can see here at the center. At the very center, you have the seconds. You have the minutes down here and hours up here. This is the Otsuka Lotek model number 5, coming from the mind of Jiro Katayama, the Japanese independent watchmaker, with a distinctive retrofuturistic design that usually takes its inspiration from technical instruments and gadgets, unique elements of design that take on also relatively unique, if not altogether innovative ways of telling time, telling the story of time, working with usually Miyota caliber bases, but obviously modifying them heavily to fit those distinctive complications or ways of showing time. 42 millimeters in diameter. It is accompanied with its original accessories, with this bronze case that was part of a Taiwan exclusive edition. At lot 8113, the piece is being bid at 240,000 in Hong Kong dollars, which is already more than 30,865 in US dollars. At lot 812, you have the Otsuka Lotec model number 6. This, compared to the number 5 that we were looking at, is slightly less rare. Because this is not actually a discontinued model. It's not unopened like the number 5 that we were looking at, but this is in like new, unworn condition as well. Again, integrating those instrument-like technical elements of design that give the watch its signature steampunk vibe, reminiscent here of an analog metering device, perhaps similar to an air pressure gauge with those 2 indicators, those 2 retrograde hands for the minutes and hours that are laid out on a double fan-like scale, with the shorter hand indicating the hours on the inner scale and a longer hand indicating the minutes on the outer scale. There is a date indicator again that you can glimpse through a porthole-like window. That turning wheel here at 6 o'clock is your seconds indicator, your indicator for the seconds. And the case design here again has the look almost of a nautical instrument. The placement, kind of off-kilter placement of the crown, adds to the intrigue of the design. This is the Otsuka Lotec number 6. Also, similarly built, if I'm not mistaken, on Miyota based caliber, again heavily modified, of course, for the purposes, for the specificities of this design, in stainless steel, with a diameter that scales right north of 42.5 millimeters in diameter. This piece at lot 1812 is being bid at 80,000 in Hong Kong dollars, which is almost 10,300 in the US currency. At lot 8114, you have perhaps my favorite of Jiro Katayama's designs. This is the model 7.5. Again, a brand new version of it that comes with all its original accessories. This is basically the 2023 updated version of this watch, which is built on the base of a Mayota 82 S5 self-winding movement that adds a custom jump hour module on the watch. That module was created in collaboration with Precision Watch Tokyo, which is a company owned by another Japanese independent maker, Hajime Asaoka, of Hajime Asaoka, but also Chrono Tokyo, as you know, which is his diffusion brand. Jump hour at the traditional 10 o'clock. The minutes in clockwise fashion, and then the next porthole, next oversized porthole is that seconds disc. Again, very unique design, very original design, kind of reminding me of the visual codes, kind of the aesthetic language that was distinctive of the collaboration between Vienna Alter and Jeff Barnes, the watchmaker and the designer. Similar steampunk vibe, not exactly, of course, the same design language, but I think it looks pretty legible. 40 millimeters in diameter. Of course, the unique shape of the case will probably make it look a little bigger on the wrist, where a little bigger than what that diameter might suggest, but probably also the most conservatively sized piece of the lot. This is Otsuka 7.5. Jiro Katayama's jump hour piece in stainless steel in a 40 millimeter diameter case with a very distinctive retrofuturistic instrument-like design. Lot 8114. The piece is being bid at 55,000 in Hong Kong dollars, and that's north of 7,000 in US dollars. Now, perhaps for the last watch of the day, unless again there are any last-minute requests that come from you with super chats, please hit the like button. I really appreciate your support. If you share the links, here to my YouTube channel at Young Brando, or my Instagram, which is at young.brando. I'll give you the link in the chat as well. Please follow me on Instagram. I'm trying to reach 25,000 there, 3,000 here. So if you have followed the link from elsewhere or from Instagram specifically, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the bell icon too while you're at it, so you can keep abreast of the developments. We are looking at the last watch of today, and this will be the last watch we will discuss from this auction specifically because the the Hong Kong-based online auction actually ends in less than 2 hours, even in about an hour for certain pieces. So make sure to take a look. This is Hermes's approach, Hermes's execution of a world timer. It's a complication devised for them by Jean-François Mojon of Chronode. Of course, it builds on the base of their self-winding, proprietary self-winding movements, H1837, made for Hermès in the Vaucher manufacture in Fleurier, of which Hermès owns a stake. This particular piece comes in the asymmetric shape of the arceau, which is an equestrian-inspired shape, as it would fit Hermès. Stainless steel, 38 millimeters in diameter. It's a beautiful blue dial that depicts in a whimsical map of an imaginary planet, an equestrian planet. This particular piece apparently comes with the full set of its original accessories, like new condition. It does look cool. The blue dial is paired with a matte blue crocodile strap. The depictions on the dial are laser engraved, but I think the lacquering techniques that are used gives it a very nice texture and depth. And the primary time-telling dial actually glides across the surface of the dial when you change time zones, right? And it makes accommodations for summertime, which is in each case indicated with the initial of the word for summer in that local language, right? In London, it's S, summer. In Faubourg, which of course 24 Faubourg Saint-Honoré is the address of the Paris address of Hermès's flagship boutique. It's été, right, for summer. For Mexico, it's verano, right? For NYC, it's summer again, so on and so forth. You get the idea. And there's that, of course, the action of that is operated by this pusher at 9 o'clock, right? Where, again, that primary dial travels across. And that opening at 12 o'clock, by the way, it's not a date or anything. It's basically the 24-hour reference time, right? The hour of your reference time, of your home time, given in the 24-hour format. Quite beautiful, again. Using the boutique address instead of Paris is a very nice touch. I really like the design, and I also appreciate the unique approach to the execution of the world time. The movement, again, is built on the proprietary base of H1837. That's made for Hermès by Vaucher in Fleurier. And again, with a bespoke complication developed for Hermès by Cronod and Jean-François Mojon. I guess the only drawback of this watch, which has as much to do with the presentation of the complication as it does with the complication itself, is the thickness. So other than that, I'm having a hard time finding anything bad to say about this design and this complication. This is lot 8115, the Hermès Arceau Le Temps Voyageur, 38 millimeters in stainless steel, with the reference number AR10510. The piece is being bid at 80,000 in Hong Kong dollars. And that is almost 10,300 in the US currency. That's it for today. Thank you again so much for your support, especially Maldives, for this generous donation. Thank you, Ryan, as well, for your well wishes and for your contribution as well. Everyone else who has said hi and again, who congratulated me on the new year and provided ongoing commentary, all is appreciated. Please hit the like button if you haven't done so already. If you have come across this live stream randomly or from a link you followed on Instagram, please make sure to subscribe here and hit the bell icon so you can catch me when I go live next time or when I upload a new video. If you don't follow me on Instagram, my handle there is @young.brando. Please show your support there as well. Liking the posts and sending in comments. That really makes all the difference. Again, sharing those links and bringing other collectors and watch enthusiasts into the community is perhaps the best way to help me. But YouTube provides you a number of ways as well. Again, thank you for the super chats. Buying a membership or gifting memberships to others is always a great way because, again, it's a consistent form of support, but also it gives access to all those members to an archive of exclusive content, which I think is very valuable. And again, with your support, it will also continue to increase in time. With all of that being said, there are also other ways that I outline in the video description. I want to remind you again that I'm an independent channel. I don't have any other masters than my own audience. So with your support, I can keep this consistent, I can keep this quality, I can increase the quantity of this sort of content, and continue as an independent voice in the world of horology, which, as you can see from the larger media landscape, is extremely rare, increasingly rare. So if you wish to support me in some way, please feel free to do that. I'll look forward to reading your comments. Please leave a comment after the live stream ends. And again, if you wish to support me after the live stream ends, that would be very much appreciated as well. Thank you so much again. Thank you especially to I Love Maldives. Hit the like button on your way out. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, wear and enjoy your watches. Bye. Take care.